In the early 8th century, Western Europe was under the threat of a new growing superpower, Islam. The aggressors and conveyors of this fairly new regime, the Umayyad Caliphate, had advanced rapidly westward across North Africa, crossed into the Iberian Peninsula in 711, and within a few years had overthrown the Visigothic kingdom. By the 720s, the Umayyad governors of Al-Andalus were pressing northward over the Pyrenees, raiding deep into Frankish lands and spreading Islam through conquest. The Franks, led by Charles Martel, mayor of the Palace of Austrasia, who, though not a king himself, was the real power in the Frankish realm. His authority rested on military success and the loyalty of the Frankish nobility. His reputation as a hardened warrior and strategist grew from a series of campaigns that had strengthened his hold over Gaul, modern-day France. In 732, the Umayyad governor of Al-Andalus, Abd al-Rahman al-Ghafiqi, launched a major expedition north. The size of Abd al-Rahman's force is debated, but modern estimates range from 20,000 to 25,000 men, mostly cavalry. His army crossed the Pyrenees and advanced through Aquitaine, sacking Bordeaux and defeating Duke Odo of Aquitaine. Unable to resist alone, Odo turned to Charles Martel for aid. Though Odo had been Charles's rival, the dire threat of the Islamic expansion had forced them into an alliance. The Muslim host was formidable, composed of Berber cavalry, Arab veterans, and light infantry accustomed to swift maneuvers. They were battle-hardened troops, skilled in mobile warfare. Their mobility, coupled with their previous successes, gave them a fearsome reputation across Europe. Charles Martel raised perhaps 15,000 to 20,000 men. By contrast, his army was almost entirely heavy infantry. The core of his strength was the disciplined Frankish foot soldier, armed with shield, spear, and sword, and armored with mail and shields. They fought in tightly ordered ranks, forming a defensive phalanx rather than seeking open field charges. Martel's forces were veterans of many wars against both external enemies and internal rivals. The armies met between Tours and Poitiers, near the road linking the Loire and Vienne rivers. Charles chose a strong defensive position on a slightly elevated terrain, surrounded by woods which blunted the mobility of the Umayyad cavalry. He ordered his men into a dense phalanx-like formation, designed to absorb repeated cavalry charges. For a week, the two armies skirmished and watched one another, neither willing to commit. When battle was finally joined, the Muslim cavalry charged again and again at the Frankish lines. Each time, the infantry held fast, their shields and spears braced in disciplined formation. Abd al-Rahman continued to order repeated charges of his cavalry against the Frankish line. Normally, their speed and shock would overwhelm infantry, but the Franks stood firm. Their shields and spears locked tightly. They fought in disciplined ranks rather than breaking under pressure. Under any circumstance, the sight of thousands of heavy cavalry charging straight toward lines of enemy infantry would have been enough to break their resolve and morale. However, the bravery of the Franks proved to be unmatched throughout the European continent. The Frankish troops in their disciplined ranks, utilizing the ever-reliable phalanx formation, which had been used as far back as the Spartans at the Thermopylae Pass, 1,300 years prior, held firm. The Muslim cavalry did not gain as much as an inch in their struggles. Regardless, Abd al-Rahman was confident that eventually the repeated rotations and charges of his heavy cavalry, in conjunction with his infantry, would inevitably break through the Frankish lines, so he opted to continue the heavy onslaught. Each attack cost a blow to his numbers. As the Franks were just as stubborn as al-Rahman was, They would not budge and repelled each Muslim attack vigorously. Although having initial success, Charles Martel knew his men could not continue to absorb these charges all day and had to quickly devise a counterattack. The continuous Muslim charges began to take their toll on the Frankish lines. Injuries as well as damaged weapons and shields began to stack up amongst the Frankish soldiers. Charles had to rotate his ranks. Less experienced, lighter equipped troops were ordered to the forefront to replace the tired or injured heavier Frankish troops. This was when Al-Rahman saw an opportunity. He opted to send in infantry to test the lesser experienced Frankish troops, giving him the opportunity to probe the battle lines for any weak points in the enemy formation to open up. The Frankish troops braced themselves, full of confidence with their solid performance throughout the day, and the presence of their commander and leader Charles Martel. These Christian men were ready to fight till the death in defense of their lands if need be. During the heat of the battle, Martel and Odo devised a strategy to attack the Muslim camp, which had been lightly garrisoned and an easy target for plundering. Duke Odo of Aquitaine led the Frankish cavalry contingents himself on this risky endeavor. His cavalry surprisingly was able to ride undetected around the main battle line without garnering any attention from Al-Rahman or the Muslims. Once clear of the carnage, his heavy cavalry attacked the Muslim camp. The garrison was able to form a formidable defense and hold Odo's men at bay, just long enough for a messenger to alert Al-Rahman of the situation. The tide shifted when word spread through the Muslim ranks that Frankish raiders had struck their camp and was destroying their baggage trains. The Muslim baggage train contained all of their food, supplies, and precious loot they had acquired during their campaign in the region. Al-Rahman had to act swiftly to avoid a full-scale panic of his army. He ordered his main force to break off and return to the defense of their camp. They were pursued aggressively by Charles and his Frankish infantry, who now had momentum on their side. Odo was unable to break through the camp's defenses and retreated at the arrival of Al-Rahman and the main Muslim force. Charles realized that the moment to finally defeat the disorganized Umayyads was now. He chose to launch a full-scale attack. The Frankish force descended upon the Muslim camp. By this stage it was well defended, and Al-Rahman's men were dug in. Charles gave the order, and his men attacked and engaged the Muslims. Al-Rahman ordered his men to sally from the camp and counterattack. The two forces clashed and went blow for blow. Surprisingly, the Muslim troops were able to hold off the Franks. Even at some point they pushed back the Frankish assault. A massive breakthrough for Charles came when Al-Rahman, commanding his ranks atop his horse, was reported to have been struck in the head with a projectile, instantly throwing him from his horse and killing him. The Umayyad commander lay dead, whilst the battle continued to rage on. This news, however, did not spread across the Muslim ranks, which enabled them to continue the fight unhindered, and even at one point getting the better of the Franks. Charles, realizing the day was harsh, long and bloody for his men, ordered a tactical retreat back to the Frankish camp, with the intent to besiege the Muslim camp the following day. The following morning, the Franks, determined to put an end to this battle once and for all, formed up for battle. However, they were met with no response. The Muslims, utterly battered and now realized that their leader had fallen, chose to withdraw from the battlefield entirely during the guise of night, whilst the Franks were resting. In their eagerness to leave the region, the Muslims had left large sums of supplies and loot in their camp, possibly for a number of reasons. Perhaps to not slow down their retreat with additional weight is feasible. Another reason, perhaps, is that they left the loot with the intention of satisfying the Frankish army, enticing them not to give pursuit, and allow them to leave the land peacefully. Whatever the case, it worked, as Charles Martel and his force did not pursue. His victory had been hard won, his men exhausted. But the significance was immense. Later, Christian chroniclers described the battle as one of the most important in world history, claiming it saved Europe from Muslim conquest. Modern historians, however, are more cautious. While later Christian chroniclers would exalt Tours as a decisive turning point that saved Christendom, modern historians recognize the nuance. Muslim power in Iberia remained strong, and raids into southern Gaul would continue. Yet the battle checked northern expansion, secured Charles's reputation, and laid the groundwork for the Carolingian dynasty that would soon give rise to Charlemagne.